Hi, everyone. I am Christopher Lehman, founding director of the Educator Collaborative, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this session. Empowering multilingual students, hope is choosing equity and access and education. It is led by the Educator Collaborative associates, Andrea and Georgina, who will tell you a bit more about themselves in just a moment, but just in short, Andrea is a Fulbright scholar, a professor, and an author of numerous books for educators. And Georgina is also an associate of the Educator Collaborative, a veteran educator and educator leader, and we are so happy to have them with us. Just a reminder, if you are joining this session from somewhere else, so perhaps you're watching on another social stream, if you're watching live, please head over to our YouTube channel. There, you can chat live right now with everyone in attendance. One note, Andrea is actually on the road right now. She's driving to present. She presents all over the country, all over the world. And so right now is driving. So Andrea and Georgina pre-recorded this session. However, Georgina will be live in the chat with you, so you can ask questions and she'll respond to you in the YouTube chat there. And please do chat and talk with each other across this session. We hope that you will use the YouTube chat in all of the sessions today, not just to ask the presenters questions, but also for you to discuss and share resources and ideas. So without further ado, I will pass this over to Andrea and Georgina.
Hi, I'm Andrea Honigsfeld.
And I'm Georgina Castilleja.
And we're so excited to have this conversation with each other and with you, if you're listening to us, focusing on how to empower our multilingual students. And inspired by the theme of the conference, our subtitle is Hope is Choosing Equity and Access in Education. And you might have already heard the accent. So let's just start with that right away, because it's so fitting that the two of us are engaged in this conversation. We want to just get this out of the way right away. I was born and raised in Hungary, and English is my third language. I'm an immigrant or first-generation American.
Awesome. And I'm an immigrant as well. English is my second language. I was born in Mexico, and I came to the U.S. at a young age. So I was in the bilingual classroom, and then the ESL classroom, and then on and on. So we're both still language learners forever. And so if we mess up, just have faith in us that we're moving forward and we're still getting our message across.
Oh, absolutely. So it's as authentic as it gets. It's not scripted. We are engaging in a conversation around this very important topic. We wanted to give just a little bit of a background about where we are, what's our context right now. So after I came to the United States, I became a New York City public school teacher. At that time, we called ourselves ESL. No more. That's not a title anymore. I was hired out of my doctoral program. I received a 3-year, 4-year doctoral scholarship at St. John's University. And the reason why I was hired by this institution that you're looking at, Molloy University, is because there was such a need to start a new master's and postmaster's program, and that was focusing on TESOL and bilingual education. So I'm very excited to tell you that I was the first one to begin to form a task force and initiate a graduate program at Molloy University. And if you're not sure where we are, we're actually about 30 minutes from New York City, the best kept secret of Long Island, right around where that TH of North Atlantic is on Long Island.
Well, I am in Houston. We were just talking about our differences in the weather. Very different aspects there. But I am the founding principal of Northeast STEM Academy. This is my latest venture. I kind of was able to fulfill that dream. I would always tell my friends, when we'd be annoyed at something in education, we'd always say, well, we should just open our own school. So I actually had the opportunity to do that, and I did just that. And so you could see the school is actually in the middle of a park, which is awesome. So we're surrounded by a lot of nature. We have a large percentage of special education students and emergent bilinguals. And so big percentage of students who are learning English. And so I guess that this is like my most proudest thing that I've done. I do have a doctorate from the University of Houston. I do have 20 something years of experience in education, but opening and founding a school that we have shaped into such a wonderful community where, you know, my tagline has always been capable, connected, and cared for. And being able to create that environment where our students feel that way and our families and our staff feels that way, you know, it's just been an honor. So that's where I'm coming from right now.
Oh, that's so beautiful. You could just sense the community in these pictures. Just, I'm so grateful that we all get to take a glimpse at your work, and congratulations. That is such an amazing accomplishment to have your own school. So we have some very ambitious goals for our conversation, because we could just chat and share experiences, but we thought it would be a little bit more focused if we try to define equity work in today's classroom through offering a framework that we're going to explore with 4 essential strategies that focus on providing access to equitable learning opportunities for all of our learners, including our multilingual learners, students with exceptionalities, with disabilities, and so forth. And because of the theme of the conference, we are also hoping to be able to motivate all of us, entice all of us, just simply light that fire in everyone who's listening today to be able to create hope for empowering multilingual learners. Let's see how we're going to accomplish all this.
We're going to try to do all of this. This is just kind of our framework, but I do think the meat of our conversation will be here, where we explore some of Andrea's work of the 4 essential strategies that teachers can use in their classroom now, right? So how do we make it actionable and practice? You know, it's something that you can practice, you know, this school year in your classroom.
And I can't wait to hear more about what's happening in your beautiful school. And I don't think I told you yet, but I'm coming to Houston to visit a local school district. And maybe, just maybe, there's going to be time for me to come and visit you. That would be truly,
that would be wonderful. We'd love it. Yes, yes.
We have to talk about that later. All right. So you might have heard earlier in other sessions that our anchor text for this conference is Samira Ahmed's This Book Won't Burn. And I was just totally blown away by this book. I actually listened to the Audible version, a beautiful performance, and then went back to the Kindle version to be able to reread some of those powerful messages that I heard. And I had to, one time I was listening to the book and I was driving and I had to pull over to write down the quote that we're going to share with you now, so that I don't forget how to look up that exact quote that we're about to share with you. So just to give you the context, if you haven't read or haven't listened to the book yet, the main character, Noor, is a high school senior, and she is pretty much an activist. Is that how you would describe who she becomes in this story?
She became one for sure, yeah. I think she already was, based on her family and her upbringing.
Yes, and based on the cover of the book and just the theme of the book, you know that this is going to be about book banning. And Miss Clayton is the librarian who was put on administrative duty, or actually she might have been released. She might have been fired at this point in the story. So this is the exchange between the two of them. So the I is Noor, the main character. So Miss Clayton smiles. These are yours to read and share as you like. These are the banned books that she passes on to Noor, the main character. I finished my tea and placed the cup back on the table. Don't you ever get tired of it? She raises an eyebrow. Of fighting the good fight constantly, of needing to be strong, looking for that side angle. Miss Clayton sighs all the time. You have to pay attention to that. You don't want to run yourself ragged. But for me, at least, hope keeps me going. Hope is an act, not just a feeling. Hope is a choice. So are hate and cynicism and silence. every day I have to think about that, about what I'm going to choose. And so do you.
I think it's wonderful again that our work right now is inspired by this novel, because as educators, I think, and we were talking earlier, just the thought of, you don't want to run yourself ragged, and you don't, right? But you still want to be able to do something. You still want to act and feel empowered to do something, even if the impact right now is in your classroom. Well, then let your classroom be that, be that good, positive place where people feel welcomed and feel empowered, like our session is focused on doing right now. And so, as we were looking at the novel, I was listening on Audible as well. Then I was looking at the Democratic National Convention, and we had Michelle Obama speaking, and everything she said was powerful, but this particular quote really, really spoke to, I was able to connect text to self and text to others. And she said, we have the power to marry our hope with our action. And so it's the same thing as the novel says, right? Like, we can't just hope for a better world. We can't just hope for our students to be able to read and to be able to feel, to advocate for themselves and to do all these wonderful things. It requires some action. And while we don't want to run ourselves ragged, we do want to see, well, what are those things that I can do to make this hope come to life? And so that's what's inspiring us right now.
And it literally happened 2 nights ago, and we were both watching, coincidentally, the entire DNC convention each night. And then we're just chatting about how many connections we were able to make to the book, to our own lives, our own purpose and commitment to a better education for our students. And here she is. She also has a powerful message for us. So we have some essential. Yeah, go ahead.
Do something is what she kept saying, and so that's what we're here for. This was already planned before that, and that just kind of resonated, and it kind of it was a confirmation that yes, we should do something.
Absolutely. So in light of that, we put together 2 essential questions, not so much for this conversation, but 2 essential questions for the work, for that important work that needs to be done this academic year, this school year, and beyond. So our first essential question that we're inviting everyone listening to ponder, to maybe choose to be your essential question for the year, is to determine what drives us to pursue equity for multilingual learners in our daily work. And the second essential question, we're more closely aligning to the theme of the conference again: how does hope work as a verb or as an act to empower others? Wow, we don't have easy answers, but we hope that. But our hope is that through work, through deliberate daily actions, just to also quote and cite Shane Saphir's work and others who talk constantly about the importance of redefining equity, not as something that's lofty, something that's a goal, but something that we do every single day. Mm-hmm. So in light of that, I am so appreciative, Georgina, that you agreed to explore this book just for a couple of minutes and then try to make sense of these equity strategies together. I'm so grateful that I get to have this opportunity to introduce or reintroduce one of my recent publications called From Equity Insights to Action: Critical Strategies for Teaching Multilingual Learners. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to my co-authors, Maria Dove, Audrey Cohen, and Carrie McDermott Goldman, as well as Claribel Gonzalez, who is a Buffalo, New York regional director of multilingual learners and bilingual education, but she's also a very talented sketchnote artist. And this is her rendition of the essence of the entire book. She was our critical friend. We shared all of these metaphors with her that are woven throughout the book. It's a very poetic publication, unlike many educational textbooks, which are more cut and dry. So here we're using the portal metaphor. And this was a post-pandemic publication where we wanted to capture the essence of how the pandemic felt almost like a portal that opened up for us. And when we found ourselves on the other side of the pandemic, what were the important things that we had to take with us or rethink or re-examine in our own lives? So the 4 equity strategies that my co-authors and I identified, the umbrella strategy, just to start at the end, is number 4, harnessing the power of connections and relationships. That strategy keeps everything else together. And then the other 3 strategies, 1, 2, 3, are the who, the what, and the how of our daily equity work. So who are our students? How can we amplify the talents, spirits, and personal powers of our students? The second dimension of this framework is the what. What are we teaching and how are we going to recalibrate the curriculum to accelerate learning for our students, since they need to make more than a year's progress in a year and they need to see themselves, their lived experiences in the curriculum. And number 3 is the how. How are we going to teach and assess in an equitable way that systematically builds our students or enhances our students' autonomy, agency, and resilience? As you could see, I'm very, very passionate about it, and I'm just so excited that we get to talk about it. And I'm just going to ask Georgina, if does this resonate with you? Does this make sense to you in your daily work? You were not featured in this book because we didn't know each other yet. We have featured a lot of other educators, administrators, teachers, but what do you think? What could it mean?
So it means it's so much and everything. and it first, it starts with intentional planning of everything, not just of even the curriculum, but of the school environment, the classroom environment, right? Like, you have to be intentional about everything. You have to think about the who. Who is entering the classroom? Who is entering the school? Who is sitting in front of me? What do they bring with them, right? Thinking of them as assets. What do they bring with them that is going to make us more powerful together? And how do you magnify those things, right? How do you use that for everyone's advantage, not just for themselves? And I'm not thinking, like you mentioned, what it is that we're teaching. It's not about remediation. Like, well, now I have to remediate and I have to do drill and kill. I know I'm in Texas, and testing is all and everything, right? And so I can't think about remediating something that's never been taught or something that they've never learned before, they've never experienced. So I have to think about, where are they coming from? Where are they coming with? How do I, like I said, magnify that, and then go from there. And like you said, like, how do I give them more in less time, I guess, because you have to hurry up and teach them anyway. And they're learning 2 things. They're learning the content and the language. So the teacher's job is just immense, but you have to be explicit in your planning of how you're setting it all up. And so, yes, so the who, and I'm kind of rambling here, but the who is who's coming into my classroom and with what, right? And then the what am I going to, how am I going to teach them, again, not to remediate, not to drill and kill, but to really give them those tools. We think about equity is giving them everything that they need to fulfill their potential, to do their best, to really reach, the higher levels. And so what am I going to do? I have to plan it out. I can't just pull out whatever textbook there is. That's not going to work for anyone. It's not going to work for a monolingual either. Like, it's not going to work for anyone. You have to value who they are, what they're coming with, and then plan accordingly. And so, and again, I'm rambling, but it's because this is the everything of how to really empower your students. And so I think what's really important, like you said, is number 4, the harnessing the power of connections and relationships. Because again, that is, if I show you that I value you, if I show you that I care, that I think you bring great things into the school, then I'm already building those connections and relationships with you. And I already know, we could go into affective filter and all that good stuff. But it exists for a reason, right? If I make you feel connected and safe and welcomed, then you're going to perform, and then we're going to be able to move forward. You're going to be able to help your peers. you're going to be able to just elevate the classroom space, period. And so I think all of these go together. You can't have one without the other, because you can't have a nice, warm, fuzzy classroom, but we're not learning, right? So, and you can't just, again, drill and kill and teach, and work, but I don't feel safe speaking, out loud, or I don't feel comfortable taking risks, then am I really going to learn? So you have to have all of these four things. And I'm going to let you kind of re-guide me, because I feel like I've gone everywhere, but this is something powerful and inspiring, and in a way simple, and in a way actually quite complex. And so how do you make it happen without just hoping for it?
Yes, yeah, I really appreciated that you started with the students, because it's all about the students. It's not about you, it's not about me, but how can we work together? How can we collaborate? How can we co-create that environment that was so beautifully represented in the few photographs at the beginning of our conversation? I immediately noticed the physical environment, how it has an impact on that social emotional environment that we're creating, that the kids are sitting around school furniture that is inviting, that is not separating the kids out, not in those straight rows, but there are multiple opportunities for the kids to interact with each other, to strengthen their collaboration too. So that was beautiful. And I just couldn't help also think about what you said earlier, that this was your calling, that you wanted to do this. So you were going through your doctoral program, you're already an experienced educator, but you felt that something was absent in other school contexts, so you needed to create your own. So I'd love to hear more about that, how that drive just resulted in your beautiful school. Because for me, a book is like that. I don't start schools, but I write books, and that same process of, because that book doesn't exist yet, so it has to be written. And I'm now drawing that parallel, but I don't know, because I've never started a school. So if you wanted to share a little bit more.
I've never written a book, so we can just let's swap and let's try it out.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess it's the same, right? As seeing the vision of what could be, of what I wish I had, or what I wish I had worked in while I was in typical school. It was the opportunity to create that space. I'm a huge supporter of social emotional learning, of effective social emotional learning, right? Because like I said, it can't all be kumbaya. It has to come together. Like, we still have to have high expectations for kids, and we still have to give them the tools to be successful out there. But the culture, community of a school or of a classroom, whatever you have control over, right? It is so important in anything else that happens. I wanted parents to feel safe and comfortable coming in. They're not judged. A lot of the times in my previous experience, you would hear, well, they don't value school, as much. No, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. Or they they just let us do whatever with the kids. Well, that's because they trust you as a professional, as an educator. It's not that they don't care, is that there's a sense of respect. Like, there's so many things that we don't understand about each other and about our cultures. And so there was a lot of judgment, and there was a lot of walls, I would say, keeping people away. And so I felt like let's open up a space where everyone feels safe. Everybody feels, like I said, capable, connected, and cared for. That's like my mission in life and in education. So help them feel that way. And so I made sure to hire staff that looked like the students, right? Mm-hmm. I made sure to let students know, hey, this is where I come from. This is what I went through. You could be here, you could be even better, you could be, the world is yours. Let's figure it out, and let's show you what options you have. There's of course many students that have never had access to anything but whatever's in their neighborhood. And so how do you create these opportunities for students? How do you expose them to different things? And that has been really the challenge, but also just the goal for us. Like let's expose them to everything so that they have choices. Let's make them feel like this is their school, that they belong here, that they have voice, that they have ownership. And then that's made all the difference. Like that has made all of the difference. We had our first group of eighth graders leave us and go to high school, and there was so much crying because they're like, no, but you know us, and this whole thing. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's the work that keeps you moving forward, right? Like there's so much work, it's so much to be done, and so much that we haven't gotten to do. But it's inspiring when you're making a difference. They're making connections. That you're opening their eyes to just other options that they didn't know were there for them. And so that's part of all of this. Those are equity strategies, right? Like I want to give you what you need. I want to show you what you didn't know you needed or what you didn't know you could do, and then I want to help you be successful with that. And so that was kind of the opening of the school. Was that like you create the structures, you create the environment, the culture, the identity of the school, and then from there, it kind of runs itself in that sense. My school is restorative. Now the kids do their own restorative circles and all of these things because we've empowered them. We've shown them how to do it. We've given them opportunities for leadership, and then they take it with them. And some of our circles are in Spanish and things like that, because we still want them to have access to it regardless, of how they do it, but it gets done. I don't know if that makes sense. And so that's
beautiful. Yes, definitely. All the things you were saying, I kept seeing how this framework, as simple and as complex as it is, it truly resonates with your day-to-day work. And one commonality that I found in your just brief overview of what your school is about that we haven't even talked about, but is absolutely critical, is to move away from that deficit-oriented or deficiency-based thinking about the population, about their parents, about the families. So rather than highlighting, oh, these kids don't do this, can't do that, or the parents don't care, that is not the angle or the focus that we're going to be embracing when we are equity-minded educators. So it was just beautiful what you said, and that's resonated in the book as well, how when the family moved to this suburban community or more rural community from Chicago, the environment completely changed for the main character in the Samira Ahmed book, and how the special talents and spirits and personal powers of the main character and that family was beginning to shine through the novel was just beautifully done. So I really appreciated both hearing that in your description of your school, hearing the same in the book, and how absolutely critical it is to recognize, celebrate, and continue. But there was actually one line that I did not write down, but I memorized it because it was so powerful. It was also Noor, the main character, at one point, not corrected, but kind of just gave a different perspective on the notion of honoring diversity. And she said that she is not using that term anymore. And she's an 18-year-old in the book, because that's just passively recognizing diversity. But what we should really be doing is stewarding diversity. That was the one time when I also had to pull over, and I didn't have a chance to write it down, but I just said, okay, all right, I will remember it. I will memorize it. And I remembered it. I remembered it because it was so powerful. I'd never heard of, we keep hearing honor diversity, honor this, honor that, and that's important to honor, but maybe it's not enough, because we need to go to that action level, do something.
Do something, absolutely. Well, when you were mentioning the deficit mentality, right? Of the well, these kids can't do that. It's so common, and sometimes it's actually well intentioned when teachers are like, oh, my babies, let me do this, and they scaffold so much to where the essence of the content or the essence of the assignment is no longer even there, but it's with good intentions, because I'm trying to protect you and I want to help you. And so I'm going to, translate this whole text for you. even though, you're an advanced learner already, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, or you don't have to do the science fair project. You can just do this. And to me, that is not equity. That is not justice. I think Soretta Hammond talked about it as cognitive justice. Like, we are removing those opportunities from our kids, even though it's well-intentioned and it's with love and it's because you're protecting them. You're actually removing these challenges and opportunities from what they're doing. Whereas, other kids are going to have that opportunity to stretch their brain and to challenge themselves and create this wonderful science project or whatever it may be. And I removed that opportunity from you because I didn't think you could do it, and I was protecting you from it. And I think that we have to be really, really careful about that, because championing our students and empowering them and being all for equity does not mean that we remove experiences from them or do that. Instead, we provide the tools of, let me see how I help you, or what extra supports you need to be successful, but you're still going to do it. And I still want you to stretch your brain, right? I still want that rigor with you. And I'm going to be cognizant that it's extra rigor, because like I said, it's content and language, but I'm not going to just completely remove it from you in order to protect you like that. I don't think that's what we are talking about either, here. It's about, how do I help you be successful still at this high level? And so in my school, all of my students did science fair project. That's what came to my mind. It didn't matter, I had some students with that were ID, that special education. I had newcomer students that were new to the country. Well, guess what? We're all going to figure out something, because you're going to participate and you're going to be part of this community and you're going to present it and you're going to create it and you're going to do all of these things. And then they felt so proud because they were contributing and they were doing these things, so I think it's something to keep in mind as we continue to talk about equity. We're championing you, but we're still pushing you, and we're helping you be successful in the challenges that are to come, because we do want you to compete with others later on, to be able to stand on the same ground.
And I think that is closely connected to autonomy and agency and resilience. And from second language acquisition research and theory, there is this construct that I just totally fell in love with. And that construct is tolerance for ambiguity. So how do we teach that the kids don't give up? Like, oh, give me that extra scaffold, give me the outline, give me the word bank, give me the translation, give it to me all. When in fact, as language learners, both you and I know this, that there's always going to be one word, one phrase, one something that we don't understand, or there's going to be always that challenge. How do you respond to that challenge? And you're not helping, but you're actually creating the environment in which the kids develop, already having some high levels of resilience, since they are part of the immigrant community. They already have
absolutely.
But how do we continue to nurture that autonomy, agency, and resilience?
I think, and actually in one of your other books, I'm trying to think of what the other book that I'm reading of yours, with literacy and multilinguals, it describes how we have to explicitly teach our students, right, how to self-advocate. And how do they do that? They have to know who they are. They need to know what they know and don't know. And that's hard, because that's hard for adults too. But it's knowing, like, this is who I am. This is what I have strengths here, and I have needs here, or I struggle here sometimes. They need to know that, and then they need to know, but you know what? When the teacher gives me a word bank, I do better. Or when a teacher, gives me some visuals, or gives me, guided notes, whatever it may be, they need to realize, like, oh, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. And then they need to be able to ask the teacher for this, because again, all teachers, in my opinion, are well-intentioned and are dedicated, but they might miss something, right? Or they might forget, or they might think, hey, all of this one thing works for 90% of my kids, so I'm going to do it. And rightly so, but then there's that 10%, right? And if that 10% can tell you, yes, but for me, this, then let's honor that, let's steward that, let's make that happen. And so But we need to teach the students to notice, this is what my strength is, this is what my need is, this is what works for me. And then they have to speak up. That is a lot to ask for, and that's really hard for some students. But I think that once they learn that when they are advocating for themselves, they're going to get further, right? And teachers will get used to it. I think, and I've had students just in different topics, they'll say, hey, I have dysgraphia. And they come and they explain to me, and then I'll be like, okay, I got you. This is what we're going to do. And but when they're able to advocate for themselves and we're able to work together, it saves so much time in me trying to figure out what works when you already know what works for you, if you tell me. But it's us providing those opportunities, one, for that metacognition, for them to think about, oh, this worked for me, this didn't work for me, right? So that's that. But then the opportunity for them to speak up for themselves, or that the opportunity for them to tell me this works. And this is actually a perfect time of year because it's the beginning of the year, right? And so as you're getting to know your students, it's asking those simple questions of like, what do you wish I knew about you? Or what do you think, what works with you when you get stuck reading? What works with you, or whatever in writing? And so if they're able to tell us this, then we're able to, again, explicitly and intentionally plan for that, right? And it, like I said, it'll save us a lot of time if the student just goes ahead and tells us. Now, if the student doesn't know, okay, we're going to try this strategy, and I want you to think about, did it work or not? How did it make you feel? Were you successful? And then they can build that toolkit, later. But a lot of it will be giving them that opportunity to reflect on what's working, or reflect on their needs and their strengths, and then speak on it. But it is hard. It's hard for everyone, and it's hard sometimes for adults to say, this is what I need, right? To advocate for yourself. But imagine how much further we would go if we all did that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm wondering if we could think of some parting thoughts.
Yes.
I was thinking of something to sort of summarize my thinking. You just inspired me. My brain is just a mile a minute thinking about all the beautiful work that you're doing. And maybe one common theme that I heard, and please correct me if I'm off with that, is this notion of access. That you want your students, first of all, to be able to understand their own needs, or their own talents, their own gifts, but also where are those areas of needs that they can identify. And then also advocating to get access. Equity is about access.
Yes.
And access to accelerated learning, access to a successful path in life. And it's not about differentiating. It's not about having 5 different versions of the same lesson, or giving all those sentence frames and sentence starters and paragraph frames and essay outlines and all those things that could be overwhelming for any educator to keep planning around those many,
Right.
many different. But if we think about what will provide our students with meaningful access, what is that access point? I'm thinking that would be a parting thought from me, but I'd love to hear how you would sum up our conversation.
I think I agree that access is extremely important, and that is the power that we have, right? As educators, we have the power to provide some access. We have the power to motivate students and help them see what assets they have, because they might think they don't have any, right? They might think, no, I don't come with anything, no, I don't know anything. And so we have that opportunity to show them that, or to provide access to their own strengths, in a way, or to find their strengths. So I do agree with that. I do also think, in thinking about this session and how do we empower our learners, our multilingual learners, is again just being intentional in what you're doing, like really thinking about who are they and what do they bring. I mean, to me, again, bringing it back to the student, right? Who are they? What do they bring? How do I amplify, like your text says, like how do I honor them, value them, help them see themselves in that way so that then they can move forward, because that's what builds the resilience. That's what makes them feel like, okay, I can do this. I could keep going. Knowing I'm going to struggle. There's going to be all kinds of walls and things and hoops that I have to jump through. But I have something in me that can help me do this. I'm already here. That's already huge. Now, how do I move forward? I think our power, I don't know, our power lies in all of that, in providing that access, but you have to really be intentional as to what access you're giving, right? And how you present that to them so that they feel that they can do this. Which I guess goes back to number 4, and again, the connections and the relationships. It all kind of goes together. Like I said, you can't have one without the other. It all has to work together.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm so grateful for this conversation, to get to know you a little bit, to spend this time. I don't even know how much time we have spent together, because time was flying for me this afternoon. But I always like to also think about how in the feminist tradition, I like to use whatever my power is to empower others. So connecting back to our theme for this short conversation, that it's always about paying it forward, always supporting the new educators, colleagues, others, whoever is listening today to this conversation. It's passing on that power, that strong belief that we can do better, and there is a pathway to acting on those choices, so hope could become a verb.
Absolutely. Beautiful. That's it.
Thank you both so much. I have taken so much away from this conversation between Andrea and Georgina. I think one of the many things that has been resonating for me is that point around making sure that we don't do too much so that we shield students from the curriculum, from the challenge that they're facing. Instead, to find ways to provide access, but allow them to take on that challenge. And just the beautiful photos from Georgina's school and all the conversation around how important it is to have community, connections, relationships to support the work that we're doing with our multilingual learners and with all students. So thank you again to Georgina and to Andrea for this session, Empowering Multilingual Students. Hope is choosing equity and access in education. If you found the work that they were doing inspiring, then we ask you to please consider paying the joy forward. You can go to gathering.theedcollab.com/charity, or a short version is just theedcollab.com/charity, and that will also redirect you there. Whether it is in a monetary way that you're paying forward towards our adopted charities today, Top Notch Scholars and the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival, or you're finding another way to pay this joy forward, please take the inspiration you gathered from Andrea and Georgina and consider ways that, as Andrea ended so beautifully with, there's such a good tie-in here, to find ways to pay this work forward. We have some more sessions that are coming up, so please stay tuned, and you can go back to gathering.theeducatorcollaborative.com to see the full schedule, or just stay on the YouTube page, find the playlist for the fall 2024 gathering. 2 sessions coming up next in session 3, 2 workshops, I should say. One is a research study session. Hope is a read aloud, talking with young readers about LGBTQ inclusive books with Dr. Amy Ellis and Katie Hollenberg. Or you can tune into Igniting Hope, a virtual celebration with the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival with M. Garcia Pena, who is the CEO director of the Latinx Kidlit Book Festival and an author, and our own fellow, Dr. Tracy Flores. So both of those will be inspiring, hope-filled conversations, just like this one that you're in right now as well, too. So thank you all for all that you do. Enjoy the rest of your gathering, and please pay the joy forward. Thank you.